One of the tips in my last video was that when you're selecting sounds, you should pay careful attention to the transients. And transients are kind of this short, spiky part at the beginning of a sound, deciding how loud something starts out and how quickly it gets quiet. But there's a lot more about them, and they're really important in general when it comes to identifying and distinguishing sounds and their character. And they're also really important in the context of dance music production when it comes to creating depth, separation, and a good groove. Oftentimes, I feel like people are struggling with transients, sometimes even without knowing about that. So I felt like sharing some things about it that might help you to make your music sound better. So let's go. In order to show you everything you need to know about transients to handle them well, I made a little example loop and intentionally created some problems in there. I exaggerated quite a bit, so it sounds pretty bad, but let's have a quick listen anyway. Kind of tough to listen to. There's no clarity, no good separation. Many things are poking out and the groove isn't really coming across that well. That's mainly also because of the transients, I would say. And to really explain the importance and trickiness of transients in dance music production, I like to take a little detour and talk about rimshots. You probably know the most famous rimshots in dance music coming from drum machines like the 909 or the 808, 505 or Lindrum. But I just recently figured out that calling these rim shots might not even be that accurate.
I actually used to think that this was a rim shot, but that's actually called a cross stick. A rim shot is when you kind of hit the rim of the drum at the same time that you hit the middle part.
In the context of this video, it doesn't really matter if we call them rim shot or cross stick, but what does matter is the frequency range they cover. Because if we check them out, this is the 909, we have these resonances starting at 200 Hertz, some peaks, and then going up all the way to 16K. The 808 also has some resonances sitting a bit higher, going up a little higher, and then the 505 also kind of taking up this frequency range. And it's this pretty wide frequency band starting in the lows, going up all the way to the highs, where usually a lot of information is happening. Like this frequency space is for our brain to tell us is the sound far or close, what texture does it have, what kind of sound is it. We use this frequency range to communicate, so our voice falls into that. So there can be a lot of detail and information in this frequency band, but a rim shot is just like this stick hitting onto something, sounds a bit noisy, still cool sound, but there's not that much complex information in there, I would say. But why am I telling you all this? So in a way, many elements in our productions kind of have a rim shot like that or something similar in their transient. Let's check out the kick, for example. If we now remove everything but the transient in the beginning, you can see the click, including the mid-range and stuff like that, is very similar to what's going on in the rim shot and taking up this space. And if we check out some more elements, let's say this clap over here. Obviously a clap is somewhat similar in the frequency range as a rim shot, but this one specifically sounds really similar to a rim shot. It's just really pokey and hitting onto something. If we check out the bass, for example, if we remove the end and go to the transient, we're also covering all of this frequency range. And as you can see, if we actually remove the transient and don't play the beginning, you can tell, okay, wow, there's just this low end energy. This sounds actually a bit cleaner. So this high end energy, it depends on the context if you want to have that in there or not, but just to compare. Okay, here we go up to 10K. If we have the transient in there, if we go down and remove the transient, so the beginning, you can see, okay, we just went down by 9 kilohertz. Quite crazy. If we keep going with the percussion, all these congas, the slap, for example, also sounds pretty similar to a rim shot. This was another one that was playing, I think. So you have this melodic part back here, but the loudest part is this transient at the beginning. So let's check that out. It's also somewhat similar what happens in the beginning here. So in a way, we're ending up with all these elements which are covering the same frequency range in a similar sort of way. So in a way, you're throwing the same element together over and over again. If we check out this synth sound, for example, cool, funky sound. But as you might be able to hear, we have these little hits in here, which are not that melodic and more similar to a rim shot. So I think those are enough examples to show that usually in the transient you can end up with all these different elements which are very similar in a way, and there's not that much of a clear separation. Let's say we check out the kick and the heads together to show you how transients really have a huge impact on groove. So these were the unprocessed closed head and open head together with the kick. So they're super clicky and sticky. Obviously, this is exaggerated to show you. Let's just do the open head. We have this very crazy transient. Let's just take it out with a fade in. It's already better. So we're getting with the transient, it almost sounds like a clicking clock. Toc, 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 toc. And if we exaggerate, we can even take a look at this new fancy oscilloscope I got. The blue thing is the head. So toc, toc. Changes the groove quite a bit. Open head, closed head. Also do that. So here, the closed head doesn't sound so nice. So I would probably look for another one here, but the open head, that was actually okay to process. But let's compare these. I have the same heads up here, so we can switch them out real quick. Let's compare these with no fade in and here with a fade in. So fade in with less transient and switch. Crazy, right? How they work together. And let's say we had this kind of weird clap, which sounded a bit weird and pokey. Let's say we make a new track real quick, get something like a 505 hand clap. But let's keep going and clean this up a bit. Bring down the closed head. That's already good. And we had the congas. This one is too loud. Let's bring that down here. And then the slap, let's switch the slap. This one, which kind of sounds like a weird clicky stick, for the 727 slap, which sounds a bit better. Already better. Okay, let's bring in the bass line. And let's, for the fun of it, just remove the transient. Now it's sitting below kind of the percussions, right? Then we had this sound. You would probably have to go in here and kind of draw these notes, take them out to make it better. So for now, I'm just going to turn it down a little bit. Okay, I was too early with the tambourines. Tambourine. Also kind of a clicky tambourine. Let's see with similar sounds, show similar files, if we can get something a little bit. So these are very clicky. It sounds different, but here we have a different transient. Might be another tambourine on this, but what I wanted to show you is that you can, by picking the sounds, you can already check for the transient if it sounds clicky or whatever. Let's compare this to what it sounded like before. Now. Okay. I think it's a step in the right direction. It's still not the best loop ever, but I think this was kind of good to show you how to handle transients and how there are many ways to process transients, and we're going to look at that in the next video when we're actually going to mix a track. So looking forward to seeing you in the next one. Ciao.